I was just letting people undermine me, put me in
Yeah.
a junior role. Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. I was letting them do this. And I realized that if someone else can see my worth, if they can offer me a double salary, they can, like, companies don't do that unless they really value it. So if
Yeah.
someone else can do that, why can I not see that for myself? Why am I staying somewhere where I am so stressed? My health was a mess, my skin was breaking out. Why am I putting myself through this?
Hi, you're listening to On Your Terms with me, Hayley Ryan. This is the show where two people get honest about the messy reality of choosing yourself. No scripts, no performance, just real conversation about self-abandonment, boundaries, and what it actually looks like to live on your own terms. So let's get into it.
So on today's episode, I'm joined by Farwa, and she is a former physiotherapist and left that all behind to become a social media manager and strategist. Not what your parents expected or wanted for you. So talk me through how that all transpired.
Okay. Hi, Haley. First of all, I am so happy to be here. Um, and now I'll just get into my story. Okay. So, I'm from Pakistan, and here we kind of do what our parents want us to do. So, my father wanted me to become a physiotherapist, go in healthcare. And that's what I did. I became a physiotherapist. I started working in a hospital, but it wasn't something I wanted. So I started freelancing on the side. I started working remotely as a social media manager, and then I got a local job as a social media manager in marketing. And it wasn't something my parents approved of because they didn't really understand what social media was, right? So
Yeah.
to them, it wasn't a prestigious enough job. So they wanted me to pursue physiotherapy, and it took a lot of time for me to convince myself that just because I have a degree in physiotherapy, just because that is what I am expected to do, I don't need to do it. And even in social media, I worked in agencies. I did a 9 to 5 because that was a more traditional path. And I've recently quit my 9 to 5 to start freelancing full time. This is something I want to do. And this is where I still don't have things figured out. But honestly, I'm just really happy I chose this path.
Yeah. So when did you first realize this was what you wanted and that physiotherapy was somebody else's dream for you rather than your own?
Every time I went to the hospital, it was really good working with patients. It was really fulfilling. But there was just something inside of me where I felt like this was something I'm supposed to be doing. This is not something I do because I started freelancing as a student for fun. It was COVID, and I thought, why not?
Yeah.
So it was something I was doing in my break. And I realized that, when you're doing the kind of work that kind of puts this fire inside of you, where you're like really passionate, you stay up all night and you're working on this, and you're like, okay, yes, I love this. So anytime I was studying for physiotherapy, I was stressed. I would have headaches. I would get so stressed, like I would start getting panic attacks around my exam.
Wow.
And anytime I was working on marketing, on social media, on freelancing, uh, I could stay up for days and not care. I was not stressed. I was not worried. I was just so happy. That is when I realized that this is something I want to do, but I still didn't decide to go all in because uh, first time I told my father, I'm working remotely and this is what I do. His reaction was not what you expect, right? So he's like, why are you working while you're a student? Because, in Pakistan, we don't really work while we're a student. We're supposed to be dependent on our parents. So he's like, are you stressed about the money? I'll just transfer some money into your bank account. You don't have to work. And it was something I was proud of, like I'm 20, I'm earning for the first time, I'm doing something different, I'm happy. And this was his direction, like you don't have to do it, don't do it, just drop
Yeah.
it. Um, and anytime I brought it up, he would just like, brush it off. Like, okay, when are you joining the hospital? When are you going to the clinic? And I did. I joined my brother's clinic for a while. And when you have done DPT, there's like a title of doctor with your name. This is something Pakistani parents really, really love, the title. So I would go there and I would see the Dr. Farwa Hafiz PT written there. And it just didn't brought me any joy. I tried so hard to fit into that mold. I just go to the clinic every day. I'm just doing everything right, but it just wasn't me. So
Yeah.
I felt like I let my parents down when I chose to work remotely, because even working from home was not something they thought was real or good enough. So
Yeah, no, I completely get that, because my story's sort of similar to yours. Obviously, we haven't got the cultural the cultural similarities, but my dad was in the army, and when I left school, they were being posted abroad. He was going to Germany, and because of my age, I couldn't go with them. So he kind of pushed me to go into the, well, he didn't push me, he dared me, because he told me that he didn't think I could do it, because he knew I'm stubborn, and if you tell me I can't do something, then I'll make it my mission to do that. So I ended up joining the Royal Air Force, because my dad wanted to make sure that I had like the security of a house, like an accommodation, and I was looked after when they were out of the country. And I spent literally 12 years in a job that, like, it was okay, but it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to be working in, like, in the arts. So I wanted to be singing and dancing, performing. And when I finally left the military, I decided, I trained as a makeup artist, because I figured that was going to be the easiest thing for me to do, that was creative, because I could do it freelance. And while I was in the military, I was doing like makeup for like parties and things like that. So I was getting a little bit of experience there. And that was kind of the same, because when I got out, it was kind of like, well, you're married and you've got a house to pay for and all this, and how are you going to do that as a makeup artist? That's not a real career. That's just a hobby kind of thing. So I kind of relate on certain levels of being stuck doing what you think everybody else wants wants you to do, and having that sort of judgment when you leave. Because I worked in the hospital too. I was an operating theatre technician, or an ODP, operating department practitioner. So I worked in the operating theatres. So I went from like this hospital-based job where everybody sort of knew what I did, and then it was like, oh, but now you're just doing makeup for people. How does that work? How do you make money from that? And don't get me wrong, like, my parents are, like, they're proud of me now. um, and I've spent a lot of time like switching jobs and moving from one thing to the next to try and figure out where I belong and what I want to do. But they're proud of the achievements I have now. But at the time, it was very unknown. So I think they were a bit scared for me.
I get that. Honestly, this is something I've noticed, when you finally decide to do what you actually want to do, people kind of accept it. Like my father, he did not understand what working from home was, because you're at home, what do you mean you're working? That's not a real job, right?
Yeah.
So he would say stuff like that. But then when I started working, and he saw that I was happy, and then I did like an in-person marketing job. So he was a manager in his bank. He used to work in bank, right? So uh, when I became a marketing manager, and I was going, it was a local job, right? So I was not working from home. So I would just come home and I would share how my day went. Um, that is when he finally accepted it, because he was like, okay, because all of his life he had this title of manager, and then I was a marketing manager, and he was happy. He would call me manager sahiba. This is as in. So this was something he accepted, and he was like, I just wanted you to be happy. I just wanted you to be stable, because I think they don't understand that stability can come from difficult choices. It can come from paths that are not traditional.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so they just want us to be safe, and I think part of us wants to be safe too. Maybe that is
Definitely.
why we stuck out with this so for so long. But yeah, and now I've just quit my 9 to 5. Uh, there's a story behind that too. And I have not started freelancing yet. I'm kind of in the process of setting everything up, and this is something I'm going to do. And there are days when I'm questioning, did I make the right choice?
Yeah.
But if something happens, and I'm like, yes, I made the right choice.
Yeah. So obviously, like, with with the traditional sort of aspects of what your family beliefs are and things like that. Is that why you kind of stayed as long as you did, because of that, the sort of stigma with your parents not really understanding what you were doing and things like that? Is that what made you stay?
I would say yes, but my mother was very supportive, not my father. So I think it was the not even the tradition. It was the fact that I didn't want to disappoint my father, because
Yeah,
if I do that, I would be like, I was the youngest, I was spoiled. He loved me a lot. So I was like, if I do that, then I'm a bad daughter, What if I let him down,
yeah.
If I don't fulfill his dream of me becoming a physiotherapist, of me doing this. So it was the guilt of letting him down.
So what changed then? Obviously, did you sort of earn his, I don't want to say earn his approval, because it sounds like he already approved of you anyway, and he was already proud and everything like that. But did you kind of convince him that this was the right path for you before you made that transition into the full 9 to 5, or did did he still kind of not understand what you were
He
doing at
never
that
understood.
point?
He has passed away now, and he never understood what I did.
Oh,
I tried
sorry.
to convince him. I tried to show, this is what I do. Like he didn't understand it. He didn't understand why I chose this. A part of him still wanted me to pursue physiotherapy. Like I would talk about it and he'd be like, okay, good. So when are you joining the clinic? Even when he accepted it, was like, okay, so when are you going to the hospital? When are you joining the clinic? Or he would just randomly tell me. So I spoke to XYZ and they said you can join from tomorrow. So, you can go to the hospital and start working as a physio, like start working on that career. And it was like, you don't get it, do you?
Yeah,
And he never did. But I know it was out of love, not out of
yeah,
control or something. So he never really accepted it. So I was in my 9 to 5. Uh, at that point, he had just kind of accepted. She's just doing whatever she's doing. Okay. um, and then I kind of burnt out. I started burning out because it was a night shift job. It was with a US agency, so I had to work at night. So I kind of started burning out, and I thought, you know what, I will quit. It was like an year after I had graduated, so I thought, you know what, I will just quit. I will take some time to figure out what I want, and then I will go back into career.
yeah.
What happened is that a month after I quit, my father had a hemorrhage. He had a stroke, and then 40 days within that, he kind of passed away.
I'm really sorry.
Um, yeah, and I did not expect that because I thought, I have so
Yeah,
much time to get his approval. I have so much time to uh, do things his way, but I didn't get that time. So the first month after he passed away, I decided I would just, throw myself in work so I don't have to deal with whatever comes up, the feelings of, because when you choose yourself, when you make difficult decisions that you know that others don't approve of, there, especially when the others are your parents,
yeah,
there's this guilt of, especially when they pass away, there's this guilt of, maybe I should have done things differently. Maybe I should have done things their way. Uh, so yeah, so I thought, I will just busy myself with work. I will work a lot, and then I just won't remember him because that's how things work, right?
yeah,
You just forget about your parents when you're working. And surprise, that didn't happen. Grief kind of caught up on me. Like last year, I was a mess. I was working hard. I was working a lot, and that is when I was doing really well at my job.
yeah,
Um, but I started noticing the stress, the grief coming up, and I realized that, maybe I should address my feelings. So I started therapy. I started trying to, talk about him. I started addressing those feelings. I started talking to my mother about this, and she was like, he just wanted you to be happy, even though he didn't understand or approve of the path. He just wanted you to be happy. So, yeah, even now I struggle with doing things the way my mom wants me to, but she's very supportive. So she's like, just do whatever you want to do, whatever
that's
is good for you.
that's
Yeah,
good.
so yeah. And the real point of choosing myself started this year, sorry, last year, when I was at my job, and I was doing so well. But my manager, I was kind of working for his approval sometimes, because I felt like, he would trust me with difficult projects, he would trust me with new projects, and I was still on, like, I had left my previous 9 to 5 to join another agency, and I was still on my probation, and he was trusting me with all of these projects. Uh, but it felt like there was a lot of undermining going on, right? Like, I didn't felt like he completely trusted me. So I would sometimes, react that, I would talk to my coworker, like, does he trust my work or stuff? But then I would get the responsibility that I thought I needed. But honestly, there was a lot of undermining going on. And then I thought, maybe it's all in my head. But then he made this workflow sheet to, and then he kind of made my coworker the senior and gave me the junior, which didn't make sense because at this point in my career, I'm not in a junior role, right?
Yeah.
So this was something I addressed with him. um, but it's like, we can work this out, you will be getting the senior responsibility, and it just doesn't make sense when you have the senior responsibility or you're working that way, but you have the title of a junior, like, on paper. That's
Yeah.
not a good sign, right? At that point, I had just completely burned out from working in agencies. And, I realized that I was passionate about social media. Like, if we start talking about, if you ask me, how do I grow on social media, I would not shut up about it. I would just go on and on. Like, this is something I love. So I realized that, when you're working in agencies, the clients, they are their clients. I'm also very love systems, setting up things like onboarding and everything. And I realized, it's their systems, it's their responsibility, it's not mine. This is not something I can just throw myself into and fix for everyone. I just wanted to fix everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I realized it's not my responsibility, and I was burning out. And I realized maybe I wanted my own clients. Maybe I wanted to work with clients where they care as much as I do. I can just throw myself into the project, and it matters. The results matter. It makes them as happy as it makes me. When I worked with some service-based business owners, when I worked with some personal brands, I realized that they were more involved in their business. They
Yeah.
cared more. That is what I wanted. So when I quit my 9 to 5, before that I had interviewed for another job. Then I realized I want to stay in this job, so I turned them down. And then I got the call. They were like, "We know you said no, but what is your current salary? We kind of want you back." And I shared, and they almost doubled my current salary. And they
Wow.
were like, "This is what we're going to offer you because we think you're a very strong candidate. So, like, if you decide to leave your 9 to 5 and come to us." And it was a leadership role, you know. And when I got the call, I was very nervous. And I was like, okay, so I need to sit down. I need some time to process this.
Yeah.
That is when I realized, I was just doing things the way everyone was expecting me to do, what my manager wanted, what I was supposed to do for clients, for everyone else. And deep down, I knew that maybe I needed a leadership role. Maybe I wanted to do more. But then I was just letting people undermine me, put me in
Yeah.
a junior role. Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. I was letting them do this. And I realized that if someone else can see my worth, if they can offer me a double salary, they can, like, companies don't do that unless they really value it. So if
Yeah.
someone else can do that, why can I not see that for myself? Why am I staying somewhere where I am so stressed? My health was a mess. My skin was breaking out. Why am I putting myself through this? Um, so I said no to the leadership role, and I also quit my 9 to 5.
I was gonna say that must have been really scary though, like because obviously you've gone from having a stable job and an offer for essentially everything that you thought you wanted to throw them away and decide to go at it on your own when you've got no stable income or anything like that, no clients. I'm assuming that must have been terrifying.
It was, I was so tempted to accept that job. To be honest, it was such a difficult decision. But I realized, it was a corporate job with a big company. Like, it was the perfect career move. You're moving into a big company, you're moving into a leadership role. That looks perfect on a resume. Like, yes, do that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do. It was really difficult to not move forward with it because I realized that even if I say yes, a few months in, I would be miserable because I don't like working fixed hours. When you work in a creative field, sometimes you get these creative mindset where you can just create and do everything. And sometimes I cannot work even when I force myself to. Like my mind just kind of blanks out.
Same.
So right. So I think people in creative fields need that inspiration around them in their environment, from their coworkers, from their clients to keep going.
Yeah.
And I realized that because I had taken a few freelance projects while in my 9 to 5. So this company, they didn't allow you to work on your own personal brand, on your own social media, no freelancing. They had all sort of rules, which is also why I could not focus on my own pages or my own stuff. So I realized, it was the right move, but I thought I just sat down and I decided, okay, am I going to, 3 months in, am I going to think, okay, this was the best decision I made, or am I going to think I'm miserable and I wish I had, trusted myself. I wish I had like taken a risk, even if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So I quit, and then I decided I would give myself 100 days to start freelancing, to at least get a few clients or like have some income coming in, to have some stability. And if that makes me happy, then that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Then that's the right decision. And if after 100 days I fail, then I would just go back to 9 to 5, which is not something I wanted to do. It was very scary. So this is what I told myself when I said no to the job offer. This is when I said to myself when I resigned, because the first time I resigned, my manager kind of called me and told me to come back. And, it is the 9 to 5, the stability. It is
Yeah.
so much easier than
Oh,
to
yeah.
take a risk, and just go into the unknown with no income, no clients, and everything. So he was like, what are your issues in the job? Let's address those. And I was like, okay. And then he's just told that child, like take the resignation back. It doesn't count. She's back. And I thought, okay. And 2 weeks in, I realized that there was nothing wrong with the agency. There was nothing wrong with the work. I was just unhappy. Like it's
Yeah.
very hard to come to terms with the fact that uh, something doesn't have to be wrong for you, it to be wrong for you.
Yeah.
Like it can
No,
be the
I
best job in right.
I
It can be the
agree.
best job in the world, but sometimes it's not right for you. Like the job that I had, it was a very chill job. Actually, I really liked my co-workers. I really liked my manager as well. And I thought, if I'm not happy here, I'm not going to be happy in any job. I'm not going to be happy with the title or more pay or in a corporate role. I'm not going to be happy anywhere else because my team was really good. My coworkers were really helpful. And yeah, it was scary, but I realized like maybe I'm just not built for the 9 to 5.
Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it? Because going back to what you said about there was nothing wrong with the job. It was just you realized that you were unhappy. I think a lot of us do this quite a lot of the time. Like we won't kind of accept that we're the ones that are unhappy. So we
Yes,
project it onto the situation we're in, or the job that we have, the people around us, because it's kind of easier than taking responsibility and realizing that you need to do something to change that, because otherwise you're just going to stay miserable.
yes. I think this is something you learn by making dumb decisions like
Yeah.
quitting your job, even when you don't have
Oh yeah.
anything to fall back on. So when I quit my another job, this was something I quit because of burnout, right? Uh, I think it was easier to point out the flaws, like you mentioned, it's easier to project your fears onto something else. This is why I
Yeah.
quit. This is why I'm unhappy. But I think the reason I got this job, the reason I was here, was because I needed to learn that something doesn't have to be bad for us to be unhappy.
Yeah.
uh, it just doesn't have to make sense. Like if someone is listening to this and they like that makes absolutely no sense, like why were you unhappy? Like you said you like your coworkers, you like the job, everything was good, why were you unhappy? It doesn't make sense. But I think we know ourselves more than
Yeah.
anyone else, and then we make, like, I think we are the harshest with ourselves. We
Yeah.
put others first. We trust others more, even when we know ourselves better. If someone says, you are XYZ, and we know that we're not what they are describing, we would take their words and not trust ourselves.
Yeah.
And I thought it was time that I kind of accept who I am. Maybe I'm not built for the 9 to 5. Maybe I like clients. I want to work with my own clients. Maybe I like freelancing. Maybe I want to work 4 days in a week. And then next week, I want to work all 7 days.
Yeah.
And this is something I've done ever since I've quit. So, yeah. And, after I quit, I had no plan. And then I saw your post about the podcast. And I just I thought, you know what, this is a sign
Yeah.
because I have all of these feelings and I want to talk about this. And maybe this is a sign I'm at the right place. It's because it gets lonely when you make this decision. A lot of people, they're unhappy with what they are doing, but they decide to stick with this because, you know, it's the traditional path. What else are you going to do? Like
Yeah.
it's not realistic. A lot of people say it's not realistic to choose what you actually want to do, especially when it's something like arts or creative field. It's not realistic to make a living out of it. It's not realistic to do this. So a lot of people stay in their position.
Yeah.
And I think it gets lonely when you finally make that decision to quit because it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And then you find people who have gone through something like this. Like when I spoke to you and just, message and you shared that this is something you have gone through, it felt a little less lonely.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast to show people that it's okay to do things on your own terms, and it's not selfish. It's kind of survival because we're all completely different, and what is normal or right for one person is completely wrong for other people. So, like for example, my best friend is very much like relationships and love is her main thing. If she hasn't got like a really strong relationship and lots of love and unconditional love around her, then that makes her miserable. So being in a 9 to 5 with like co-workers that she gets on with really well and she's got that community there, that's perfect for her. Whereas for me, I prefer like freedom to make my own choices. So 9 to 5 for me doesn't work because I want to be able to have freedom to choose my own schedules and make my own mistakes and things like that. And I feel like failure is data. So it's better to make choices that are risky and deal with the consequences because you learn something from that. Whereas other people, that scares the heck out of them and makes them miserable. So it's okay to want different things as long as it's aligned with what you want and not just because everybody else wants or expects it from you.
I when I was growing up, I thought everyone wanted the same thing. So when okay, so from I'm from Pakistan, and it's very traditional to get married in your early to middle 20s, and if you're not, then like there has to be something wrong with you. People start questioning it. So this was also a choice I made. To not get married. I wanted to understand myself. I wanted to be financially independent. I wanted to do all of this before I got married. So this was also a difficult choice to make because when my father passed away, there were a lot of people who came over and there were a lot of proposals and stuff. And people often find it hard to believe that, that I'm doing this out of choice. They're like, there has to be something else,
Yeah.
like, why are you not married? There has to be a reason. But the reason is that, I feel like, okay, so as I was saying, I thought everyone, they have the same choices. So I spoke to my friends and, we were really young. We were still in college and I was talking to her and I was like, like, what are your dreams? Like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I want to get married and I want to settle down. And like I spoke to all of my friends and everyone had something different to say. Someone wanted to do computer sciences, someone wanted to move to UK, someone wanted to do this and that. And then I realized, not everyone has the dreams that I
Yeah.
like even at that point, I realized I didn't want a relationship because I knew there were parts of me that I wanted to work on because I thought if I get in a relationship, I'm just going to mess it up or like I'm going to harm the other person as well. Like when you're
Mm.
not healed, you kind of project like, you should be the source of my happiness. It should come from you. And then you kind
Yeah.
of start fighting and start messing it up. And I realized that I didn't want that. I realized I also didn't want a traditional 9 to 5. And when we were students, working from home or social media were not a thing. It was not something you could do.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, there's something different. There's something that I want that is different. And it has honestly been very hard to accept, but I will say this: when you finally choose yourself, when you finally start to do things that you wanted to do, the fear gets really strong. There have been days where I have questioned myself, why did I just not accept that job? And I've been like, you know what, maybe I should just text him and say, hey, I'm available, is the job still available? Maybe I should go back to the job.
Yeah.
But then there have been signs, there have been stuff, because community is so important, So I posted on threads, sharing my journey, that I've quit my 9 to 5, and this is something I'm going through, and I'd love to, like, hear other people's story and just talk to them. And I've done so many virtual coffee chats with people, and there's so many people going through the same exact same
Yeah.
thing, and it feels a less lonely, because these are the people who have gone through something similar, or they are going through this. And it's easier to understand, it's easier to choose this path and continue on this path. And I think that has been my motivation to continue the
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have also gotten on some discovery calls, and just the difference in when I would work for clients or when I would be on calls with clients. And for the clients, for my freelance, the discovery calls that I've done, like, I might close some clients, like I've sent the proposals and we're kind of signing the contract. So the difference in how I felt, this is not something you can uh, tell someone else. This is not something you can, like, explain to someone else, the difference that you feel.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in our soul, we know who we are. And those random thoughts, maybe I should start this business, maybe I should do this, maybe I should move to this country. I feel like these are not random. These are signs. These are like signs from your soul. It's guiding you to the path. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
So,
especially the ones that keep coming back. Like
yes.
if you've been having, like, say, versions of the same sort of thought or wish or dream for like decades, years, that though, like, I definitely believe that those are like soul wishes. That is what you are here to experience.
Yes, for 4 years, I have ignored this feeling of wanting to start my own business, my own freelance, my own clients. And this is something I've ignored for 4 years. But then it keeps coming back, and I'm unhappy every single time, even when I have the perfect job, even when I'm happy, I'm traveling, I'm doing everything right. And I feel like this is when your soul knows. This is when you have to listen to yourself, or you will
Yep,
be miserable.
definitely.
So, right. So, and then I spoke to those clients, and I was just so happy, because the power to make your own decisions, to mess things up, like you said before, that I want to make my own mistakes, right? The the freedom to do that, because I
Mm,
spoke to some clients and they were very nice, but it wasn't aligned with how I wanted to work. Just the power to be able to say, you know what, this is really good, but we're not aligned in how we work. So I want to moving forward with this, and it's scary when you have no clients. It's very scary to say that to the first client that shows up, but
yeah.
then it's going to stress you out, and to be able to make this decision. And then I've had some lovely chats where I realized, okay, these are going to be some long-term clients. I booked this one call, and I usually do 3 months contract. And then I asked him, like, what should be the timeline? And he was like, uh, as long as we do, as long, I feel like, this is going to be a long-term partnership. And I would say minimum 9 months. Like, this is a dream come true, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like when we finally start choosing ourselves, things start working out for us. But the
Yeah.
decision to do that, we kind of have to go through this breakthrough where nothing makes sense, where we kind of feel, am I insane? Am I making the wrong choice? Where it
Yeah.
keeps you up at night. But you know that if you don't move forward with this, you will be miserable. And it's not something that others can see, like, if I share with my friend, hey, I just quit my job, she would think I'm insane, because on paper everything is perfect. And she's like, so you quit your job to just sit at home and look for clients, like,
Yeah.
and
And
do
they just
nothing?
they just don't understand, because that's not what's aligned for
Uh,
them, and that's
exactly.
perfectly fine.
Right. And how do I explain that this is something that I'm happy in? My skin has started clearing up. All of my health issues have started, they have like started disappearing. Like, how do you explain this to someone? Because I feel like, I'm very religious too, so there's some spiritual aspect in it
Yeah.
too. And I feel like everything that you do, every mistake that you make, you're supposed to make that. You're supposed to make dumb decisions. You're supposed to do things that don't make sense in the moment. But
Yeah.
few years down the line, you realize, okay, this is why I did that. I needed to learn this. I needed to meet this person. I needed to see this to be able to where I am. So if someone asks me, like, you could have done this right after you graduated, but maybe I could have not. Maybe I
Yeah.
would not trust myself. I needed to go through all of those jobs, all of this doesn't make sense, and everything that I've gone through. I needed to go through this to be able to have this trust in myself that even when things are scary right now, even when it doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
stick with this, I needed to go through that. Because if we don't trust ourselves, honestly, who will? Who's going to trust us? Who's going to tell us,
Exactly.
this is the right path? Because there is no right path, right?
Yeah. And I think sometimes as well, you need to go through things that you don't necessarily want to find out that it is something you don't want, because that then informs what you do, and it tells you what your non-negotiables are.
Exactly. The year after I graduated, everything was perfect. I had this job, I was getting a promotion, everything was going fine. My father was happy with me at that point, like, okay, at least she has a 9 to 5, she has a stable job. Okay. And
Mm.
I thought, okay, this is the peak of life. This is where everything is going right. And then I burnt out at my job. It didn't work out, like,
Mm.
uh, and then my father got sick, and like everything just came crashing down.
Yeah.
Some of it was in my control, some of it was not. And now that I look back at that moment, I was like, okay, what just happened? Like, things were going fine. But, you know, I know that in that moment, even when things were going fine, I was not happy. I was not happy with the marriage decision. I was not happy in my job. I was not happy deep down. Maybe
Yeah.
that is why things had to fall apart for me to see that just because things are fine on paper does not mean that they're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So obviously, like, things are good now, and you mentioned your health is improving, and you're happy. Is there anything that you still find yourself struggling with? Like, because I know for me, I every now and again I still catch myself seeking approval, and like I have to remind myself that, like, I don't have to prove to anybody that I made the right choice. I just need to prove it to myself. So is there anything sort of that you still struggle with now?
Yes, because I still haven't like reached that income goal, or I don't have enough clients or anything. There's still doubt, did I make the right choice? Because I could have been in a leadership role. I could have earning that much. I could have been doing this. There is so much doubt, you know.
Yeah.
But just because there is doubt, I don't think because you're doubting yourself does not mean that it's not the right decision.
Yeah, I think the nervous system tends to get loud when we get scared, like when things are changing and different, because it's it's odd, it's not safe. So
Yeah,
like I tend to find it makes us fear things more and causes more doubt. And I think as long as you can look at the life that you're trying to create yourself and feel calm and not panic about the life you're trying to build, it's a sign to keep going and push through that sort of doubt and fear and, yeah, all the other scary emotions that come along with it, because we don't handle change very well as humans.
you don't, especially when it's unpredictable, it's unsafe, it's like a new thing that you have to do, and it's very scary. And there are times when I wish I would just like, message him and ask, what, I want to join this again, because, it's like whenever you want to come back, just, you're
Yeah.
just a text away. And that kind of keeps the loop open, because I'm like, what if this doesn't work out? There is a lot of fear, there's a lot of doubt. There's sometimes I wonder if I make the right decision. There are
Yeah.
some signs, with client meetings or this podcast or talking to people who have been through this, where I realized, okay, this is the right decision. But there is a lot of doubt because I feel like, what if I have to go back to the 9 to 5? Am I going to be happy? Is this something I should be doing? Because, when you don't choose the traditional path, there's something uh, that keeps telling you, maybe this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Maybe you should be doing things the way everyone else is doing, be realistic. This thing of being realistic, choose yourself as long as you're being realistic, as long as you're doing things the way everyone else is doing.
Yeah, but that's not really choosing yourself, though, is it?
Exactly. And yeah, it has been really scary. And I guess we will find that out in a few months because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, what if I just go back to the stability? Um, so yeah, I think it's important to have these spaces where you can see that people who have chosen themselves. And sometimes we just hear these stories of, I went through this, and look at my life. It's like completely perfect. But I feel like maybe that is an illusion. We're never 100% happy. We're never there. Like never. We don't really uh, get to that point ever. Like we can be happy. We can be content with where we are. But we are humans. We keep evolving. We keep changing. We keep wanting the next shiny thing.
Yeah, just keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah, and then it's also messy, you know.
Yeah.
Choosing yourself is very messy, like if you uh because there is no one telling us we're doing the right thing except
Yeah.
ourselves. Because
Yeah.
when you're doing something for someone else's approval, there's this external validation that, okay, yes, okay, at least this person is happy with me. And when you're choosing yourself, it's very hard to say, okay, I've disappointed everyone. Is anyone happy? Am I doing the right thing? It's
Yeah.
really hard to put yourself first and say, at least I'm happy. At least I'm choosing myself. So unless you have that internal validation, uh, it's really hard. Sometimes we want that external validation too, we want to hear it from everyone else. We're doing the right thing. We're cheering for you. But most of the times when you do, you don't have that. You don't have anyone telling you you're doing the right decision. There are people feeding onto your fear, they're telling you, they just want you to be safe. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And like we said before, it's difficult because how can they give us external validation when they don't understand what we're doing?
Exactly.
If they can't see the value in it, how can they then validate us and say, yeah, you're doing everything right and you're going to be absolutely fine? Because to them, it's just madness.
Right, because it's really hard to understand why someone would leave stability to choose something that is messy. It just doesn't make sense. And honestly,
No.
I literally sat down and I was like, I asked my therapist this, I was like, is there something wrong with me? Like, is there something wrong with my brain that
Yeah.
I am making things difficult for myself? Like, why am I so unhappy?
And
Uh,
I think a lot of people have that same thought when they're in the situation where they're choosing themselves rather than doing what they think or feel they should or need to be doing to appease everybody else. It's always that thing of like you say, is there something wrong with me? Why can't things just be easy like it is for everybody else?
yeah.
The scary thing is, like, the people that we're comparing ourselves to in that moment are going through exactly the same thing that we did like a year, 2, 3 years ago, when we were just going through the motions and living on autopilot before we decided to choose ourselves. They just haven't got to that point yet.
Yes. If it's okay, I would also like to know a bit on, the messy middle that you're going through. What makes,
Yeah.
the that feeling, like there's, I don't know how to describe it, but there's this feeling where, okay, it is messy, but I've made the right choice. What was that for you? That feeling or that?
For me, I did a lot of soul searching because as I mentioned earlier, I sort of jumped from job to job. I've been makeup artist, author, musician, personal trainer. I've done like loads of jobs to try and figure out where I fit in, and I've kind of found spirituality, and I started doing a lot of with human design, and I'm a certified soul realignment practitioner. So I've I've done a lot of internal work. So I kind of I feel good about where I am, but it kind of feels like the external doesn't always meet me where I am. And like at the moment, imposter syndrome is ridiculous. So like when I first decided that I wanted to do this podcast, it took me 9 months to pluck up the courage to actually post something asking people to come on, because I was so convinced that nobody would see the value in it. And with my prices, if I'm selling a service or a product, I'll often like reduce my pricing for no reason or discount. Like a couple of months ago, I was talking to one of my friends, and she mentioned something about one of the services I was offering, and that she wanted to pay me to teach it to one of her co-workers. And I was like, yeah. Do you want me to do you as well for free? And it's like, as soon as it came out, I was like, oh my God, know your worth. But it's almost like you kind of feel like you have to kind of give things away to prove that it's valuable. And sometimes I'll put out like a free meditation, and I'll get like crickets. And it's like, oh my God, if I can't even give it away for free, who the heck's going to pay me for anything? And it's just silly little things like that where I just completely get in my head, because I have these expectations of how I want things to play out, and when it doesn't happen, it's just it pulls me right back to that insecure, like messed up individual that is still stuck trying to prove to everybody else that I'm not crazy and I'm doing the right thing. And it's just it's not fair that nothing's matching up to what I want it to be. And I have to kind of catch myself and be like, no, this is fear. This is your nervous system getting in the way. You need to step back and pause, reset, tell the person that you can't do it for free and you don't know why you said that. And yeah, it's messy. It's messy, but I know I completely trust that I am on the right path because of the inner work that I've done. And I know, like, I truly feel that this is my purpose. This is what I've been kind of doing all these extra little things for, because I'm just picking little things from each thing that I've done, like the business aspects, the social media, the people skills, the all that sort of thing. Just kind of, I'm just pulling from everything that I've just kind of done and experienced, and trying to put it into what I do now, to because that feels right. It feels like soul level right for me.
I think this is the hardest point, uh, and when we decide to do something on our own, because even right now I'm like, my skin is clearing up, my health is great, so I'm happy. But you look at yourself, like sometimes I look at myself, it's like when my friends speak to me, okay, so did you get any clients? And then I look at myself and I'm like, okay, I say that I'm happy, I say that I've made the right decision, but I also don't really have anything to show for it. Like I don't have uh, my social media hasn't grown because I haven't posted anything. I've been deciding what to post. Like I have been judging everything, that, like you said, the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I've been doing that with my own content, with my own work. Uh, and I haven't really booked any client at the moment yet. So when I speak, like I'm really happy. So the first question they ask is, oh, okay, so like you find the clients, and uh, like, no, I don't have anything to show for right now.
Yeah.
But deep in my soul, I know that's the right decision.
Yeah. Procrastination is another thing I really struggle with as well, because I will plan and plan and plan and plan and not follow through on like posting. Like I'll have like loads of social media posts and I just won't post them, or I'll have like sales pages up on my website for different offers that I've got, and I just won't hit like publish, because it like I have to try and convince myself, because my mind is very busy. I have a lot of voice, like my voice, but like my inner voice, my inner critic, and it's very difficult to trust myself sometimes, because that fear of, well, if I put this out there and something doesn't happen, gets in the way a lot. So I do have to choose things very wisely. Like, I can't work on too many things at once. I have to just sort of go, right, okay, so this is my focus, and I'm gonna go all in with that and figure it out as I'm going, because otherwise, if I start working on too many things, I just end up getting too overwhelmed, and procrastination wins and nothing gets done.
Yeah. Yeah, even before getting on this podcast, I was thinking, uh, is this the right decision? I'm going to share my story. Who cares? What if someone hears this and says, she just sounds stupid? Like, no one cares, like we judge ourselves. So I was like, what if someone listens to this and then they just like hate me? They absolutely hate me after listening to this. Like, what if someone thinks, okay, what, this doesn't make any sense? Because we judge ourselves, we see ourselves like that sometimes. So, and then I was like, you know what? That's fine, because I'm at the point, I think, after everything that we've gone through, the mindset that has changed for me when I finally decided to do this is, I was miserable anyways, right? So even if this doesn't work out, even if it's messy, even if I'm doubting myself or whatever, what exactly am I losing?
Yeah,
Like, of course, there is a lot on, you know, but still, what if I wake up years down the lines, and I wish, what if I had chosen myself? What if I had quit that job and started freelancing? And I won't know unless I try. And
yeah,
the more I put myself out there, the more I share my story, the more my kind of people would be, attracted to that. I would, attract my tribe, my people. And
yeah,
there are
definitely.
going to be some people it won't make sense to. There are going to be some people who would think, okay, she was just rapping a lot and didn't make any sense. But those are not my people. And I
Yeah,
think it's
exactly.
really hard to just put yourself out there, and just be vulnerable. Look, like, hey, I don't have it figured out. I'm still figuring it out. And I have made this decision and I'm still not sure if this is the right one.
Yeah,
But I just feel that this is the right thing for me. And it's very, very difficult to do that. It's very, so honestly, I appreciate the space that you have created. It's been really nice to
thank
talk
you.
about this with someone who gets it, someone who has been through something. So it was really nice, honestly.
And I think it's important to show people that nobody ever has it 100% figured out 100% of the time. Even the people that like I tend to tell my friends when they say, "Oh my god, you're doing so well and you're doing this and you're doing," I'm like, I'm literally like a swan. I might look graceful and all together on the top, but underneath my legs are just like and I'm just struggling to keep afloat. And I think that's the problem, isn't it? Like when we look at social media and things like that, everybody focuses on the highlights. They don't focus on the authenticity and the rawness and the 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 struggle. And
Yes.
I think the struggle is the most important part of the journey. And I think it should be celebrated rather than kind of like hidden like a dirty mistress.
Even when I had it figured out in the job, even then there were times when I doubted myself with important projects and stuff. And even now that I'm saying I'm really happy with the choice, at least I'm not miserable anymore. So
Yeah,
I'm really happy with the choice that I've made. And now I know that when I'll go to sleep, I'll just refresh my social media. I will look at the client messages and I will wonder, is this going to work out? There is going to be doubt. And when I go to sleep, I'm going to question everything. But this is part of life, right? Like anytime we make a decision, we are
yeah,
going to question it. But when we're on the right path, there's this excitement there with the fear. Like, yes, this
definitely.
is unknown, then this is scary, but I kind of want to walk this path to figure out what's going to happen. And I think that is what makes everything worth it, because we plan our life and things don't work out. It never work out the way you plan.
Definitely
And
not.
yeah, so I think this is the best. Like, this is life, the unpredictability, the mess, the figuring it all out. Because at the end of the day, we are all figuring it out. So
Yeah,
let's just be kind to each other. Let's help each other out. Find our people and
definitely.
support each other.
100% agree. So, what would you say then to somebody who has kind of who's kind of stuck in that situation that you're in. They've done an education, the degree and the job that they felt like they needed to do because their parents wanted them to, and they didn't want to disappoint, or they kind of just fell into that for like in some way, but it's not really what they wish they had done themselves. What would you say to them? Like, what would you wish somebody had said to you back then?
I would say that if something keeps coming back, if you're at a path and there's a path like a degree or something that keeps coming back to you, it's not random, And if everything is going right and you're still miserable, it is not random. It is not your overthinking, That is the inner calling. That is something that you're supposed to be doing. And it's really hard to trust yourself. It's really easy to tell someone, just trust yourself and do what you want to do. It's really hard to make a decision where you will be disappointing people. So I would say keep doing what you're doing, but soon you will find out that you're still miserable, and the people that you think that you're trying to get their approval of, uh, it doesn't matter, because if we don't approve ourselves, that is the only approval that matters. And the minute you're going to make the decision for yourself, the people whose approval you're fighting for, they're actually going to approve you. It, it doesn't really make sense, but the thing is that when we are walking the path that is meant for us, there's this change in our energy that people pick up on. There's this trust that we have on ourselves that people pick up on. So even when it doesn't make sense to someone else, even if it's confusing, even if it's messy, if it makes sense to you, if it's something that you daydream about, if it is something you think of every time you go to sleep, what if I was doing this? I would say take a risk, take a calculated risk and do it anyways. Because what if you wake up and you think, okay, I wish I had done this, and you won't ever know, even if it's not your path. Like you said that you have done a lot of things to figure out. So all of these things were supposed to lead you where you are, right? Everything that I've done is supposed to lead me to this, because we don't learn from, if we don't make mistakes, we're not going to learn. Like, we're not born and then instantly you're like, okay, yes, this is what I wanted to do. This is my purpose. So everything that you're going through, it is going to lead you to your purpose. So I would say just take the risk and trust yourself for once, the way you trust someone else, the way you trust their opinion. Just trust yourself that you're making the right decision and just go for it. Uh, you'll find your people, you'll find your thing.
I love that. It's so simple, isn't it? Just trust yourself. Just trust yourself the way you trust everybody else in your life that you trust, and go for it. I love that. It's such a succinct way of putting it.
You have to fail to learn, like it might not work out, but it would be our failure. Then we don't have to sit down and wonder about this. We'll like, okay, been there, done that, it didn't work out. Yeah. You'll have your answer. So I say go for it.
I think failure is always better than regret.
Yes, 100%. I've tried to keep it safe. I was not a risk taker. I've always tried to keep things safe, walk the safe path, but it's not worth it. So just do what your soul is telling you. It's time you choose yourself, because you're looking for everyone else's approval. What about your approval? Do you approve of yourself when you go to bed? You're like, yeah, okay, I did something that made me happy. If this is something you've done, and even when you're questioning everything, like when I go to bed, I question, maybe I should have accepted the job, but deep down, I know I'm happy. I know this is something I'm meant to do. And even if it doesn't work out, I know I made the decision. It was my decision to make. It was my mistake to make. I don't have anyone else to blame. I don't have to project this to anyone else. It was my decision. I made it. So yeah, let's do this. It's either going to work out and you're going to be really, really happy, or you're going to fail and then you're going to be like, okay, so I should have just done the other things. But you will learn. This is life. It's messy. We're going to fail. We're going to learn. You either win or you learn. There's no losing here. There's no failing here, to be honest. So,
yeah, I agree completely. So this has been amazing. I've loved speaking to you for the last hour. I think it's about an hour. For other people who have loved hearing you and your story and want to know more about sort of what you're doing with the social media and the strategy stuff, do you want to let people know how they can find you?
Sure. So you can reach out on my Instagram and my social media. I will be posting more on my Instagram. I will be posting more content on how to grow. Mostly, I help service providers or creators or founders on how to grow their social media, basically, how to get more visibility, how to get their offers seen. Like right now, I have 150 followers, but I have gotten leads, like a lot of leads from my social media. So this is what I help other service providers do, to get leads, get sales from their social media. And if someone wants to get more visibility, so they can reach out. If even after hearing all of this, they still want to work with me, they still think, okay, she wasn't just yapping around. It was
Yeah.
really nice talking to her. Then please reach out on my social media, on my Instagram. This is all I have right now because I'm still figuring things out. I don't have a website right now. So my Instagram handle.
Perfect. I will put the links in the description anyway. So if anybody's interested and or just wants to hang out with you, because you're so
Yes,
lovely, the links will be there so they can spend a bit more time with you, and maybe in the future once you've got things a bit more sorted, if they're not ready to work with you now, they might be in the future. Fingers crossed.
honestly, if you have gone through something similar, or if you just want to connect, I would love that too, because I think we are nothing without our community. So just making these connections, it's so important to feel less lonely. So I would love that too. And
Amazing.
it honestly, I would say that I really appreciate you starting this. I know you said that you waited, like waited 9 months to actually take the leap, and I'm so glad that you did this. Because
Thank
it's so
you.
important to have this space. And this is the first time I've spoken about my experience ever since I've done this, and I'm honestly so glad. The space that you've created, it was really nice. It was really fun. Uh, and I really enjoyed this. So thank you. And I appreciate this so much.
Thank you
And
so much. And
I am so thankful that you finally decided to start this.
yeah, so am I, to be honest. And I'm so grateful for people like yourself who are willing to come on and show their vulnerability and talk about the mistakes they've made, the celebrations, the struggles, and just be completely authentic and real. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting to me. And
This was really nice speaking with you, Haley.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I know these conversations aren't always easy to sit with, so we really appreciate you sticking through it. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can join our Discord community at www.haley.ryan.co.uk/Discord, and we'll see you next week.